This is Mark Bell from supertraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. I got a couple of squat questions to answer. One came in from a guy named Jay Smith off of Facebook. I'm sure there's probably about 45 million Jason Smiths or Jay Smiths. Anyway, this Jay Smith had a question about keeping the hips underneath the barbell while squatting. And he wants to kind of know how important is it to keep the hips under the bar while squatting. Well, it's extremely important to keep the hips under the barbell for as long as possible during the squat. Everyone's going to squat a little different. Everybody has different body mechanics. I mean, you got guys squatting that weigh 150 pounds, and you have guys squatting that weigh 450 pounds. So there's going to be a lot of dispute and a lot of questions and a lot of different types, a lot of different ways of squatting. People with different mobility, different strengths, different people are going to squat at different speeds. I mean, so it's going to run the gamut. It's going to look quite different when you have a huge guy squatting versus a smaller guy. But in general, you want to try to keep your body as upright as possible. You want to try to stay as straight as possible. If you start to lean forward from the upper body, you start to tilt forward, it can be problematic in a lot of different ways. Some guys could lean forward and utilize their back. You got guys that squat with their hips and their back, like Ed Cohn did, and Ed Cohn was pretty successful doing that, I would say, squatting over 1,000 pounds at 220 in single ply gear back in the day, back before squatting 1,000 pounds was cool. So there's a lot of different ways to go about doing your squats, but one thing that Ed Cohn did is he arched real well. He also kept the bar real low. He also forced his knees out real hard. So he externally rotated the knees so hard that his hips were still somewhat in line with the barbell. Go and watch some of his clips on YouTube. Type in Ed Cohn, and you'll see a lot of his squats. And you can watch some different guys go. Watch Dave Hoff's 1,200-pound squat. That's a great example of keeping your hips underneath the barbell. Now, if you're talking about a raw Olympic squat, it's going to look a little different. It's going to look quite a bit different than a multi-ply squat that you see someone like Dave Hoff or someone like myself perform. It's going to look quite a bit different. So, again, the squats are going to look different, but some of the technique and some of the objectives are the same. You want to try to keep your hips underneath the barbell for as long as you can. The only way to do that is to really force your knees out. People talk about kicking their butt back. Let's say the bottom of my hand here is the butt. People talk, look how fat that hand is. People talk about kicking that butt back. I wouldn't intentionally do that. I would just squat down. I don't really, there's a lot of people that have a hard time sitting back, so that's a great cue when someone's new. But for you powerlifters out there, if you guys have been doing this for a while, and also for you guys with big giant asses, if your ass is already back, there's no reason to push back any further. For myself, I actually initiate my squats at the knees a little bit more than some other guys do, and then some other guys admit. Most guys won't admit that, or most guys don't even notice that. But watch a lot of big squats. You're going to notice a lot of guys initiating the squat a little bit more from the knee than they'd like to own up to. Also, the knee coming forward. People are always talking about that. People are always going crazy about the knee coming forward. You're not going to die. You're not going to end up with knee cancer if the knee comes forward. If your knee slams inward, then you're dealing with some issues. That's going to suck, and that's going to hurt, and that's going to leave a stain. So try to avoid that as much as you can. But again, you want to try to keep an upright posture. You're trying to keep your hips underneath the barbell. For every inch that you continue to go this way, you're just adding more and more poundage to your spine. You're getting further away from your center of gravity, and you're just making the lift worse and worse and worse. The best way to accomplish this, the best way to learn this and feel this, is to squat into chains. Set some chains up in a power rack or in a monolift, and just squat down into the chains. Set them up so they're maybe just around parallel, and try to stay real upright. Try to really sit into your squats. And you're going to notice as you get down to the last 2-3 inches of that squat, depending on how effed up your mobility is, you're going to notice that in those last 2-3 inches of that squat that it's going to be a real pain in the ass to try to keep your chest upright and to try to not lean forward. More often than not, we see people kind of falling forward. And then from there, their butt shoots up and they do a 2-part lift, which is the worst possible thing that you could do, because then you're not even really recruiting the right muscles and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps you, Jay Smith. That's it from supertraining.tv. I will catch you later.